Now that we've gone through all the Senate candidates, we're going to make our way to the congressional candidates, and we'll start with the 4th District, which we're in right now. And Carolyn McCarthy, again, is not able to attend. However, she did bring a representative, and I would like to give a warm welcome to Bill Lucas.
I know now how the Israeli ambassador to the UN feels. Congress goes on its August recess next week, so there are legislation pieces that they are trying to finish up before that recess ends, and that's why the Congress can't be here. She asked me to represent her because I've worked with her in her office through my position in Aipac, the America-Israel Public Affairs Committee, which I think most of you probably are aware of, is an organization which is dedicated to fostering the United States-Israel strategic relationship. It's working with her and her office both in Washington and in New York that I know her as a member of both the Long Island Council and the Northeast Council of Aipac. So with that in mind, you don't need me to stand up here and tell you that we're living in very challenging times, not just for the United States, but especially for Israel. It's under attack in terms of security threats, the Iranian threat, which is an existential threat for it, its right to self-defense, the Goldstone, the aftermath of the flotilla, and various pressures regarding the peace initiatives and increased efforts to really challenge its legitimacy as a state. I believe, and I believe the Congresswoman believes, that under these circumstances, we really need to rally behind those that support us, and us is Israel and the United States and the relationship between those two countries. Not just when it's expedient in the short term, but those who've been consistent and reliable over the long term in terms of that support. If you look at Carolyn McCarthy's record, she has been a consistent, reliable supporter over her 7 terms in Congress. Despite the ups and downs of the various administrations over 60 years of Israel's existence, the support of the U.S. Congress has been rock solid. They have continuously acknowledged the strategic and mutually beneficial relationship between Israel and America and acted accordingly. Under the Constitution, the role of Congress, that is the House and the Senate, according to Article 1 of the Constitution, as it relates to foreign affairs, is threefold. Number 1, appropriate funds. Number 2, regulate commerce. And number 3, declare war. That is the constitutional charge for the Congress. In addition, the Senate has the charge of ratifying treaties. Under Article 2 of the Constitution, foreign policy and foreign affairs are the domain of the executive branch. Congress has the ability to utilize its power of persuasion, but it does not have jurisdiction over foreign policy or foreign affairs. Okay, so let's get specific. Okay, I totally agree with what Bruce Blakeman said. Let's judge by deeds and not by words. Okay? So let's take a look at Carolyn McCarthy's voting record over the 7 terms that she's been in Congress, shall we?
Nancy Pelosi's, isn't it?
Number 1, she has voted for every foreign appropriations bill during her tenure in Congress, including the most recent, which granted $3 billion in aid to Israel. There was one attempt in 1999 to have Israel singled out and have aid cut. She voted against that bill. She voted for the one time that Israel was granted by Congress specific appropriations in the aftermath of the Wye River Accords in 1999 for $1.8 billion. During her tenure, the House has passed 11 different bills related to Iran. She has voted for each of them. In addition, she co-sponsored 7 of those bills, including H.R. 2194, which was the bill that was passed just a couple of months ago, which was the Comprehensive Sanctions Act, which put penalties on any companies in the U.S. that were assisting anything in Iran with refined petroleum. And as was mentioned, the European Union just came along with that report, or those sanctions, just last week. She has signed every House letter to the President and the Secretary of State regarding Iran and the actions that we should take. She's co-sponsored resolution repudiating the Goldstone report in November of '09. In January of '09, she co-sponsored the resolution supporting Israel's right to self-defense after Operation Cast Lead in Gaza. She co-sponsored in May of 2008 ongoing Palestinian rocket attacks on Israel. She co-sponsored a bill recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and saying that U.S. embassies should be moved to Jerusalem. She voted for a resolution more recently condemning the British University and College Union vote to boycott Israeli academics and academic institutions. She has voted for literally dozens of resolutions and signed letters from Congress to both the President and the Secretary of State supporting Israel. I think you get the point. I hope you get the point. The bottom line is that in her 7 terms of Congress, she has voted for every single pro-Israel piece of legislation, and she has signed every single pro-Israel letter that's been issued. This is consistent, reliable support that in these times, I think are worth noting and at least giving credit for. She's on the subcommittee of the House Education Labor Committee, and she also sits on the Financial Services Committee. Despite not being a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, she serves as a member of the Democratic Israel Working Group. She favors a two-state solution as will be negotiated directly between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And it's obvious that she has an understanding of the geopolitical realities that Israel faces. But she's taken it even further. She's traveled to Israel several times to see and talk to people on the ground, both political, military, and just common folks. She's met often with Aipac. I'm with Aipac, I'll tell you. I meet with her several times during the course of the year, and she's at other things as well as with the Jewish community. Just last Monday, she met with 7 rabbis from the South Shore, and by all accounts, that was a very successful meeting. So, when she speaks, it's not platitudes, but it's words and actions based upon knowledge, first-hand experience, and long-term solid commitment. Let me just end with 3 statements in her words, which I think makes it crystal clear. 1, I will continue to support efforts that reaffirm support for Israel as a longtime friend, ally, and strategic partner of the U.S. and Israel's right to defend itself. 2, Iran is a threat not just to the U.S. and Israel, but the world, and is a real threat against global safety. We cannot just sit and watch Iran. 3, we must do all that we can to ensure the security of the State of Israel and its people. Just as the United States is vital to the survival of Israel, Israel is also vital to the survival of the U.S. Our countries are linked together on so many levels. These are the words of a person who, in her 7 terms, has voted and acted as a solid friend and staunch proponent of U.S.-Israeli relations. In these challenging times, and they certainly are for both, I hope that we can rally around those that have supported us over the long run and have a proven history of friendship and continuing to support us in the future. Her record speaks for itself. Judge her by her record. Thank you. And by the way, if I may, I'd like to answer the last question that we're not signing on to Peter King bill, and Carolyn McCarthy did not sign on to that bill. Not because of its statement as related to Israel, but there was a piece of that that required the United States to withdraw from the United Nations Human Rights Council. That's a position, by the way, that both Israel and Aipac believe that is not in the best interest of Israel or the United States. I'm not giving you my personal feelings.
Carolyn McCarthy's opinion.
first statement that she made came out the day after the flotilla incident on June 1st. And the second letter came out, the second statement came out on June 9th. And yes, someone like me did have influence on that second letter. Okay? The first letter, however, was not fully published in the Jewish Star, if that's where you're coming. One of the quotes that I cited was out of that letter. And that was the one that talked about continuing its right to defend itself. And she also said, whenever there is loss of life, it's deeply regrettable, but we must press forward to ensure that all nations recognize Israel's right to exist and keep its people safe. I'll just say two things as far as that's concerned. One, she was, as I think most of you know, a crime victim herself, and then her husband were finding out. They will be sensitive to that. Number two, Golda Meir, who I think all of us know, was famous for many things. But one of the quotes that I most respected Golda for was she said, you know, eventually I can forgive the Palestinians for killing my children, but I can never forgive them for making me kill theirs. Sometimes killing is necessary, but it's nothing that is ever not regrettable. If you know any soldiers, if you know anyone who has been in a combat situation, they don't get joy from killing. They don't kill because it's fun, and they don't get gratification from it. It's something they have to do. It's a dirty job, and it's a shame that people have to. When I worked in Israel, I lived in Israel for 2 years. One of the people who worked for me was on the Israeli squads in Europe that were killing Black September people in the aftermath of the Munich Olympics. Okay? I will tell you for a fact, I had long talks with that man, and he killed some really bad people. He got no satisfaction out of that. It was his job. So let's look at it in context. She supports Israel through her action, and that's the bottom line. Directly between the Israelis and the Palestinians. So what she's saying is that the Israelis and the Palestinians have to come up with something between themselves which recognize both of their aspirations, not an imposed settlement, which is a position that the current government of Israel takes. It's the one that the Omer government and all governments, I think, over the last 10 years have taken as well. Okay? Thank you.